stolen heaven was truly hell. You came to save me when I fell. Your grace and mercy, they're how I fight. Addicted still, but to your light.
Stolen Heaven, Secret Hell. Episode 21. Addicted to Your Light. A stolen heaven was truly hell. You came to save me when I fell. Your grace and mercy, they're how I fight / addicted still, but to your light. 4 lines. The entire journey of this song, the seduction and the cycle and the consuming fire and the naming and the turning and the secret given to light and the stronger hands and the starting again and the war in the chest and the new normal and the scars shown as testimony and the declaration walking free, all of it arrives here, in 4 lines, in the simplest and most complete statement the song has to offer. And it begins with a verdict. A stolen heaven was truly hell. This is the title of the song, spoken as a completed realization rather than a question. And I want to say something about this line that is honest and a little uncomfortable. There are people who will hear it and understand it completely, in their bones, in a way that no explanation can fully communicate. And there are people who will hear it and understand it intellectually, but not experientially. And for those in the second group, for those who have not walked through the consuming fire of addiction or the specific hell of habitual sin that promised heaven and delivered destruction, I want to say something that might sound strange. Be grateful for that ignorance. Because the stolen heaven is not simply bad. It is specifically, precisely, devastatingly bad in a way that is proportional to how good the thing it imitated was supposed to be. Every addiction, every habitual sin, every false pleasure that consumed began as a reaching for something real, something God made and intended and provided. The need for relief, for connection, for pleasure, for escape, for peace, for love. These are not corrupt needs. They are human needs, God-given needs. Needs that He designed to be met in specific ways that lack nothing and satisfy completely. And what addiction does, what sin does, is take those real, legitimate God-given needs and offer a counterfeit, a stolen version of the heaven God intended. Relief that becomes dependence, connection that becomes isolation, pleasure that becomes consumption, escape that becomes bondage, peace that becomes numbness, love that becomes transaction. The stolen heaven is so destructive precisely because it is stolen from something genuinely good. It knew exactly which need to target. It promised exactly what was actually needed. And it delivered enough of a shadow of the real thing to keep the reaching going, until the shadow had consumed the life it was supposed to illuminate. That was truly hell, not metaphorically, in the specific weeping and gnashing of teeth sense, the unending grief and rage of a person who needed something real and received something that destroyed them in the shape of it. And then, into that specific hell, He came. You came to save me when I fell. I want to sit with the simplicity of this for a moment because I think we can rush past it and miss the full weight of it, especially for those who have been deep in addiction or habitual sin. Especially for those who know exactly what kind of person they were when He came, exactly what they were doing, exactly how far they had fallen and how long they had been falling and how little they had to offer the one who came for them. After the testimony was cleaned up and the story had a resolution, when they fell, in the falling, into the specific hell of the stolen heaven, He came. He did what needed to be done. And it took 3 days. 3 days to accomplish what no program or strategy or human effort could accomplish in a lifetime. 3 days to purchase the morning that was not guaranteed. 3 days to break the ownership of the addiction over the soul. 3 days to make it possible for the stolen heaven to be named as the hell it always was, and for the person who was consumed by it to walk free. Who are we that he would come for us? That is not a rhetorical question. It is the genuine, staggered wonder of someone who knows exactly who they were when he came and cannot reconcile that person with the love that came for them. Who are we, lost in the consuming fire, hidden behind the second skin, wearing the mask, carrying the secret, reaching for the flame, that you would look down at us and say, "That one is mine"? We are his. That is the only answer. Not because of what we offered, because of what he decided. Because his love is that complete and that specific and that costly and that certain. And then the final line, the last thing this song says, the closing statement of everything. Addicted still, but to your light. Something profound has happened here that I do not want to rush past. The addiction language is not discarded in the outro. It is reclaimed, redirected. The person is still addicted. The capacity for deep, desperate, clinging need and reaching and dependence is still there, still real, still the defining feature of how they relate to the thing they most need. But the object has changed. Because here is the truth about addiction that the journey through this song has slowly revealed. The reaching was never wrong. The capacity for deep need was never the problem. The desperate longing for something that would finally satisfy, for something to cling to and hope on and build a life around, that longing is not a defect. It is the image of God in us, reaching for its proper object. We were made to be dependent. We were made to need. We were made to cling and hope and reach and be consumed by something larger than ourselves. Sin and addiction took that capacity and aimed it at something that could not hold the weight of it. And it destroyed us in precisely the proportion that the need was real. And God took that same capacity, unchanged, undiminished, the full, desperate depth of it, and aimed it at the only thing in the universe that can actually bear that weight. At the only one whose love is sufficient for the depth of the need. At the only source of relief and connection and peace and belonging that lacks nothing and satisfies completely and will never steal the heaven it promises. We are addicted to his light now, dependent on his grace, needing his mercy every morning, clinging to his faithfulness when the pulse races and the shame whispers and the familiar door still calls, hoping on his promises when the fire has not yet gone out and the not yet is still real and present and honest. And what can be said about a God whose love is so complete and so specific and so costly that he took a person consumed by a stolen heaven and transformed the very capacity that the addiction exploited into the hunger that drives them toward him. Our prayer, the only prayer that feels adequate at the end of this journey, is that somehow, anyhow, in the ordinary Tuesday mornings and the racing pulses and the starting agains and the scars shown as testimony and the walking free, our lives reflect his glory. Not because we are worthy of that, but because he decided we were worth coming for. And it only took 3 days. Reflection. For those in recovery, what does it mean to you that the capacity that the addiction exploited, the deep, desperate need and reaching, has not been removed, but redirected? That you are still addicted, but now to the only thing that can actually satisfy it. For those beside someone in recovery, how do you help someone understand that the depth of their need is not their greatest weakness, but potentially the thing God uses most powerfully? That the hunger that drove the addiction is the same hunger that will drive them toward him.